Art Williams Jr. claims to have produced more than $10 million in counterfeit cash, which some federal agents call the best counterfeit they've ever seen.
Went from being the best counterfeiter to the best toilet cleaner.
We on 100. Yeah, I said we on 100 right now. Oh, I'm on 100. Yeah, I said I'm on 100 right now. Hey. We on 100. Yeah, I said we on 100 right now. Oh. Yeah, you should've left us on a high note. Different city, different time zones. You had me open up for your tour. I leave it looking like it's my show. The fans begging for the encore. Woo! Yeah, and what you know about selling merchandise right out your house? I got 40 boxes in my living room on the couch. Yeah, me and my girl about to ship them out. Oh Lord! Yeah, I thought I told them last record. I'm out here grinding on a mad level. Always on 100, they don't understand the mad hustle. Nah, but that's what happens when the fans love you, I know. Yeah, I ain't the norm, but I like it though. About to move the family out to Nashville. I'm sleeping on the floor, got no curtains in the bedroom. Hang up the sheets, yeah, that's the way that I roll. Yeah, they think the money about to change me. That type of talking got me angry.
In this episode of American Greed, Arthur Williams Jr., a Southside Chicago street tough turned counterfeiting craftsman. His bills, impeccable.
The case agent testified at Art Jr.'s sentencing that they were probably the best quality he'd ever seen.
He rolls millions off the press, but makes the mistake of turning it into a family affair.
His dad asked him, "So son, what are you doing for a living?" Art says, "Well, Dad, I make money." "Okay, how do you make money?" "I make money. I'm a counterfeiter."
On August 14th, 2006, a 15-year-old boy approaches a Chicago police car with a wad of cash in his hand. He tells the officer that it's all counterfeit and that there's a lot more in his father's apartment upstairs.
So the police go in, they see what appears to be obvious counterfeit and pieces of counterfeit bills being put together.
They also find the resident of the apartment, Art Williams Jr., and arrest him on suspicion of counterfeiting.
They didn't have the machinery Art used to make the bills, but they had the bills themselves, and Art could see that, you know, somebody was going to have to pay for this, and it was going to have to be him.
Williams talks to American Greed from federal prison in Big Spring, Texas.
I guess that's where I failed my son, right? As far as being a good father, I didn't know how to do that. I didn't have a father in my own life.
What the police don't realize is that most of the money is created by the 15-year-old, and that it will not be the last counterfeit he will create.
We didn't have any reason to think he was involved. We thought it was just, you know, unlucky kid with a criminal dad who's got this kid in a bad situation.
Before being betrayed by his son, Art Williams Jr. claims to have produced more than $10 million in counterfeit cash, which some federal agents call the best counterfeit they've ever seen. His journey has taken him from places as disparate as the seedy underworld of organized crime to the frozen expanses of rural Alaska. But his story starts here, on the south side of Chicago, where he and his two siblings spend their formative years in the projects of a street-tough neighborhood called Bridgeport.
Cause you might find I'm from a different place in my kind. It's a little bit different than yours. Quit snoring, hip-hop isn't dead. It's just been in the morning. From the moment I quit recording. Quick record this. Listen, I'm warming up and you're misinformed. If you think that I'm slipping up, this ain't sick enough, then I'll skip the chorus. I've been here, ain't nobody heard of me. Yeah, I'ma turn this beat to a murder scene. I don't live for the world, I live for the king. I live for the king. Focus, wrote this with emotion. It's hard to get a break when the doors ain't open. It's hard to get a shot when the gun ain't loaded. And it's hard to make a living when nobody wanna notice. Hold it, what am I, insane? Maybe playing crazy. You put me in a room with a mic, you will not restrain me. You do what you wanna, but you can't contain me. Lazy is not a character trait of mine. Don't wait in line. This is the current condition of my state of mind. Don't tell me that this isn't real. Don't tell me this ain't how I they play it, and get goosebumps every time they play it. Raiders, this my calling or not, Father? Maybe I should just not bother. Go back to that 9 to 5, but I am not a quitter, so quit that.
We're raising money for the After School All-Stars, and of course, I Grow Chicago. This man is as famous as he is infamous. And we've got a stunning crypto piece right now that we're going to sell, and I've already tell you that.
This is probably one of my most special pieces besides maybe this one right here. I feel very humbled and grateful and blessed. I feel so blessed, man. Really, I do. And
But wait, there's more. Let's get cash in, literally cash in on that emotion. This piece is also going to help those two great charities that we spoke about there earlier. And I think in the spirit of the cryptocurrency, you want to pay for Bitcoin or cryptocurrency? Go for it. That'd be fine with us. Regular cash, 14,000, 15,000, 16,000, 16,000. He says yes, 16,000 it is. 16,000 is. I see 17,000 anywhere in the room. 16,000, 17,000 right there. Thank you very much. 17 and a half. 17 and a half. 17 and a half. Be lined there. I saved you $500. 18,000 to you. 18 grand. And it is sold. $18,500 right now.
Suck it in. This is great shit. We're all proud of you, man.
Don't tell me that this isn't real. Don't tell me this ain't how I feel. Oh, this is all I have. All I have. Oh, oh. Don't tell me that this isn't real. Don't tell me this ain't how I feel. Oh, this is all I have. All I have. Oh, yeah. Don't tell me that this isn't real. Don't tell me this ain't how I feel. Oh, yeah. All I have. All I have.
this is just nuts what's happening. And it really is ridiculous. I'm loving life right now.
It is the sad destination of a long deteriorating childhood, one that once showed a great deal of promise.
Art was a brilliant little kid. He was a straight-A student in school, which was remarkable because he came from a very messed up family.
His father abandons the family when Art Jr. is 9, and his mother is diagnosed with schizophrenia. The mounting difficulties move the family from a comfortable life in the suburbs to the tough streets of the projects.
And I remember walking through, the projects, and there was graffiti, and there were gangbangers hanging out. I mean, it was like, walking into hell.
Williams begins to adapt one afternoon when he finds his mother in the kitchen crying.
And she goes, I just don't know how we're going to make it anymore. And I went to the fridge, and it was empty, And I just got so angry, not at my mom, but just angry at life.
He storms out of the house in frustration.
And I remember hitting the meters, all right? I mean, I'm walking by each one, and I'm hitting them. And so I started to hear the change rattling. I started inspecting it, and I noticed these 2 pins. I remember picking up, and there was a little piece of metal, and I stuck it under the pins, and what do you know, this damn thing turned.
When Williams returns home with an armful of groceries, he's greeted by a conflicted reaction from his mother.
She was in tears that we had food, but at the same time she was mad because I was stealing. She always told me God would provide, But I said, well, he did, I remember that was the first time that I felt empowered.
At that point, you see this brilliant little kid start to put on a completely different sort of armor. He ends up getting into street crimes because the boys in the gang show him that, why are you knocking over parking meters when you can be robbing the cars next to them?
But lives in the streets almost always have bad endings. And to make matters more urgent, Williams learns that his 14-year-old girlfriend is now pregnant with his child. Williams needs help, and one day, opportunity is presented at a local snack shop.
One of the guys hanging out is this old school counterfeiter. This guy says, look, kid, I can give you a job if you're interested.
In the mid-'80s, before scanners and Photoshop, counterfeiting is a legacy crime. Its intricate details passed from one generation to the next. The old Italian counterfeiter takes Williams to this nondescript building to learn what is often called the world's second oldest profession.
Counterfeiters have often described the sensation of seeing the bills come off the press as almost sexual in nature. For Art, this kid who had no money, growing up in these hard circumstances, suddenly printing their own money, he is immediately addicted.
But after 6 months, Williams' new teacher suddenly disappears. It seems that Williams' counterfeiting career is over before it starts.
I just reverted back to what I knew, and that was the streets.
But life in the streets has gotten tougher, and after being shot in the leg, Williams knows it's time for a change.
At that point, I just said, what am I doing? You know, what am I doing?
When American greed returns, Williams' newfound skills have him living the high life. But will he be able to stay ahead of the law?
He needs to leave immediately because these other people are going to get him caught. He smells it.
So to my kings and queens, thinking life ain't what it seems. Keep your head up, chase your dreams. Throw your hands up, then you scream. To my kings and queens, thinking life ain't what it seems. Keep your head up, chase your dreams. Throw your hands up, then you scream. They sleep, we grind. 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 I want it all, and somebody told me I can have it. So I practice to live body that see me screaming magic. And my team living that warrior life so much that we get bored with life. With a big sad crowd and the pack so loud that we can't even board the flight. Private jet though, I'm city hopping out in Lux, bro. And the problem is they can't stop them. More money, it's more problems. Round here we call that cash rules, but we suck it up cause cash rules. So we get buck and go nuts from the sun down till it come up. I'm from the town where the guns bust and niggas keep they guns tucked. Tell me how do we sleep less than the city that is sleepless? Stay strong and show no weakness. From here on I proclaim, get the money, fuck the fame. Restless it's in the game. To my kings and queens, thinking life ain't what it seems. Keep your head up, chase your dreams. Throw your hands up, then you scream. To my kings and queens, thinking life ain't what it seems. Keep your head up, chase your dreams. Throw your hands up, then you scream. They sleep, we grind. 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 They sleep, we grind.
If I do just remember.
Yeah. Handouts create lazy people I'm not impressed with. You want something in light, then why don't you go and get it? Actions speak louder than words do. It's pretty quiet, isn't it? Look at the world we live in, defined by comment sections. Surround yourself with people that challenge how you think, not people that nod their head and act like they agree.
And when you have those type of people that just believe in you, even when you don't believe in yourself, even when you just don't believe in what you're doing, but you have these people that are coming and say, we believe in you, Art. And how do you get that? You get it by being righteous. You get it by being honest. You get it by working hard.
Never make it, then when you do, they gon' say they knew you were going places. That's just how it works. Next thing you know, you'll be overrated. Hearing people say they miss the old you. It's crazy, ain't it? And perfect people don't exist, so don't pretend to be one.
On the south side of Chicago, Art Williams Jr. faces his destiny on the streets when a rival gang puts 2 bullets in his legs. He survives, but he knows his luck can't last forever.
He realized that it's only a matter of time if he sticks with the streets and the street crime before he just gets killed. And so he decides that at that point, he's going to set up his own counterfeiting operation.
An old Italian counterfeiter has shown Williams the basics of counterfeiting, as a master shows his apprentice. But the master has disappeared, and Williams is now on his own. Luckily for him, a counterfeiter couldn't be in a better place.
Within, I think, a couple 100 miles radius of Chicago, you have the largest printing industry in the world.
Not far from Williams' home, in fact, is Chicago's Printers Row, which has been a hub of the U.S. printing industry for over a century. It provides everything he needs: a printing press, process camera, plate burner, hydraulic cutter, inks, and miles of paper. Unfortunately, despite having the equipment, the young apprentice still lacks the skills.
Art's first bills, they come out like purple. They're no good. You know, he gets frustrated, stops, and he spends a couple weeks, you know, upset and depressed.
But Williams is resilient.
Right about that time, we're talking, I think, at the early 90s at this point, the scanners and printers and computers and the programs start becoming really, really good. He creates what's called a hybrid bill, where he uses both the computer technology and the offset technology. Finally, he gets some pretty good bills.
Williams believes they're good enough to get 30 cents on the dollar, if he can find the right buyers.
I don't need passing them back from people for my achievements. When I die, I want to know that I live for a reason. Anyone can take your life, but not what you believe in.
I was getting sentenced. It was Judge Darriagan, and he told me, he said, Mr. Williams, he goes, I've been hearing about how these bills are the best bills that have ever been seen. He goes, can I see one of them? The judge looked at it, and he told me, he said, Mr. Williams, how much time did you put into make this bill so perfect?
$100 bill.
I said, it took me about 15 years, Your Honor. And he said, Mr. Williams, he said, what do you think you could have accomplished if you took that 15 years and did something different with it?
30,000 new bidder in the room. We're back at 33.
New bidder.
Arthur, could we trouble you to potentially do 2 custom portraits?
I could.
So we'll raise 60.
He can do 100. He's a freaking counterfeiter, for God's sake. That's what he does.
Just gave back to raise $75,000.
Thank you.
All-Star. Let's give all 3 a great round of applause. Thank you, gentlemen.
Never knew if they will listen, but when I write, I produce passion. That's Mel Gibson. If music is a disease, I promise I'm infected. I dream on different levels of dreams. Insane, these beats are my playground. Let the words play. You ain't catch it, that's wordplay. You're stuck on the wordplay.
The best way to make money off counterfeiting is to sell it to other criminal groups. Because when you're dealing with organized crime, when you're printing it, no one's going to report you to the police.
And again, he couldn't be in a better place than Chicago.
It's one of the great capitals of organized crime. Growing up in Bridgeport, you know, there's guys right up the street.
Before long, Williams is selling to crime organizations, including the Chinese, Mexican, and Russian mafias. Williams estimates that he sells $3 million of counterfeit over the next 3 years, earning him a profit of approximately $1 million. And he knows how to spend it.
When you know you can always print more money, you tend to not care.
He becomes the life of a non-stop party. But the high life is causing problems with his girlfriend, who takes care of their son, Arthur Williams III.
He spends more and more time away from home. He starts dabbling in cocaine, and that's no good for his home life. And so eventually she starts seeing someone else.
Williams is devastated, but suddenly gets a phone call from a voice that has rarely been able to offer support in the past, his mother's.
By then, she's living in Texas, where she's originally from, and she talks him into moving down to Texas and getting out of Chicago.
Williams shuts down his counterfeiting shop and gets on a bus to rural Texas to start a new life. And a new life it is.
Well, life in Texas is a lot slower than it is in the streets of Chicago. And Art actually kind of goes straight for a while.
But it doesn't last.
Art sort of, you know, has this little criminal alarm clock in him.
And the alarm's just gone off. Williams returns to street crimes that he knows from his days on the south side of Chicago. He even does a 3-year stint in a Texas prison for burglary. But the crimes don't stay petty for long. One day, his new girlfriend, Natalie, piques his singular obsession when she pulls out a $100 bill at a bookstore.
That's the first time Art sees the new money that had changed in 1996.
When American greed returns, the U.S. government sets its sights on counterfeiters with its most complex bill yet. Will Williams be able to beat it?
It goes from a way to make money for art to an almost artistic quest. It's about being able to create something that nobody else can.
No suit on, but that's okay, I will KO you if you come in my workspace. And don't you ever try to tell me I lack passion, I'm a stand-up guy. I promise you ain't laughing, these rappers are slowing the game down. Bad traffic, and how you gonna put me in the category of whack rap? Yeah, listen, I'm Hawk, I transform and I smash rap. You sipping on syrup, that doesn't mean you're a sick rapper. See, what it means is you gon' probably get sick after. You don't like that I'm blunt, or is it the fact that I smoke past you? Take your best shot. Take your best shot. Take your best shot.
To help another person. And especially since I've had so many people help me, that I just feel like it's a part of my soul to help others. And I just got back from LA, and I was with Arnold Schwarzenegger and all kinds of people, and they were awesome. And we raised a lot of money for children to the point where I couldn't even believe it.
$150,000 raised.
$150,000 raised. But I knew that this art is more than just beautiful stuff hanging on the wall, that it could be used to change people's lives. And that's what my plan is in life. That golden toilet back there, it has real hundreds in there that I already put in there. I put them in there. Whatever money you have in your pocket that you could spare to put in that toilet bowl, to drop it in there, and then we're going to close it at the end of the night and we're going to donate it to the Common Ground Foundation to do something for others. Because in the end, man, that's all we can do. That's what matters. And it's memories, these memories that we have right now.
Tell me why we're divided. If we're gonna fight, let's fight for each other. If we're gonna shout, let love be the cry. We all bleed the same. So tell me why we're divided. Tell me, who are we to judge someone by the kind of clothes they're wearing, or the color of their skin? Are you black? Are you white? Are we all the same inside?
It's been one amazing journey. I genuinely love every one of you from my heart. Brothers and sisters for life. All right.
It's rolling off the presses now, the biggest change in the look of U.S. currency in 66 years.
In 1996, the U.S. Treasury Department begins issuing a new series of bills in the most concentrated effort in U.S. history to deter counterfeiters.
The first to get a facelift is the $100 bill, the most widely circulated piece of currency in the world, and the most tempting target for counterfeiters.
3 years later, retired counterfeiter Arthur Williams Jr. holds the new $100 bill in his hands for the first time. It's like nothing he's ever seen. The new bill comes with a myriad of security features: the watermark, the security thread, color-shifting ink, microprinting.
When Art sees the bill, he's enraptured by it. He's looking at the watermark and, he's thinking, wow, and he sees the color-shifting ink. And suddenly, all these old techniques, they start going through his head about how to defeat each measure.
In addition to being the most secure bill in U.S. history, it is also the most publicized, thanks to the government's Know Your Money campaign.
The important thing about the publicity campaign was that people became aware of the money that they were actually spending in their hand.
The watermark on a real 100 is large and fuzzy. On a fake, the image is smaller and sharper.
People suddenly knew about the watermark. They knew about the security strip. People are paying attention to their money. And if you're a counterfeiter, that's not something you want people to do.
Unless you are an extraordinary counterfeiter. By making the bill so difficult to replicate, the U.S. Treasury has just eliminated a great deal of Williams' competition.
He knew that whoever could counterfeit this new $100 bill convincingly stood to make a great deal of money.
The potential payoff is too much to resist. He sets up shop in his girlfriend Natalie's apartment and begins to unlock the 1996 new note.
Once Art starts getting into reverse engineering this bill, he really falls in love with the process.
You ready? Let's go. Yeah. For those of you that want to know what we're all about, it's like this, y'all. Come on. This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason to remember the name. He doesn't need his name up in lights, he just wants to be heard, whether it's the beat or the mic. He feels so unlike everybody else, alone, in spite of the fact that some people still think that they know. But no, he knows the code. It's not about the salary, it's all about reality and making some noise, making a story, making sure his click stays up. That means when he puts it down, Tox picking it up. Let's go.
Who the hell is he anyway? He never really talks much.
Kids are hungry, got a baby brother and little sister, they tell me he's grumbling, but I think it's something. He opens up the fridge and there's nothing. He starts running down 31st, gotta break into those parking meters, get those quarters and hit the store up. Had no choice but to be a gangster, now we got that pistol tucked. It's a spinning check, Billy paid already about to self-destruct. Who would've thought he could print that loot that could fool the bank teller and guy we trust? He was sick of being broke, he just had enough, so he packs his stuff. He takes a ride with Da Vinci from the Windy out to Indiana. Feds got out their cameras. He's the king of counterfeit, back at it again. Only dollars make sense, these backstabbers ain't friends. Got a Rolls Royce and a brand new Benz. Everybody wants to make amends. Can't tell the real from the fake who pretends. Success is the best revenge. He's the king of counterfeit, back at it again. Only dollars make sense, these backstabbers ain't friends. Got a Rolls Royce and a brand new Benz. Everybody wants to make amends. Can't tell the real from the fake who pretends. Success is the best revenge.
It goes from a way to make money for art to an almost artistic quest. It's about being able to create something that nobody else can.
In other words, Williams is an artist, and the 1996 $100 note is to be his Mona Lisa.
The first thing he goes after isn't even really part of the bill. It's the pen, because this anti-counterfeiting pen was everywhere at that point.
It's the pen we've seen cashiers mark bills with all across the country. On real U.S. currency, the pen will mark yellow, but most fake currency will mark black. It all comes down to the paper. Williams assigns Natalie the task of finding the right paper to trick the pen, but she's having trouble, and Williams is getting frustrated.
Finally, one day she blows up at him, and she says, "Look, I've tried everything. You want me to try this?" And she goes around the house, "You want me to try that?" Marking everything in paper with the counterfeiting pen. And then she marks a phone book, and they both look at it, and the ink stays yellow.
Having found the right paper, Williams sets out to tackle the next challenge, the color-shifting ink.
If you look at the bill, it's on the denomination mark on the lower right-hand corner.
As the angle of the bill changes, the color of the ink changes from black to green.
Art has never dealt with an ink like that. He's just using basic inks, and he doesn't know where this stuff has come from. And then one day he's walking across a parking lot, and he sees a car, and he notices the color of the car is changing as he walks past it.
I even knew some men who think that they can pay for it. Oh no, that's not real.